And so, guys, we're going to get into a little bit of NFL talk, but not about the Super Bowl. We're going to talk a little bit about how free agent season, although it is not officially started, it has not begun yet, there are still a lot of trade rumors and speculation about free agency that's going on. And two notable characters in this are Carson Wentz and Jameis Winston. So Winston played backup for the Saints this past year, and there's been a lot of conversation about if Brees retires, will they choose Jameis Winston? I know that Sean Payton has already said that he is excited about keeping him on the roster and that he wants to make a deal with him. And so, Andrew, I know that you're a huge Saints fan, so I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you want him back next year? How do you see this working out?
Yeah, I think I want Winston back for sure. I think he deserves a shot to battle with Taysom Hill for the starting job. And I mean, look, obviously I'm not Sean Payton, but I just would like to see Winston in that offense with the Saints just to see how he's grown. I think he has grown past the 30 interceptions in 2019, and he just has so much talent. And I think he'll sign another one-year deal with the Saints and try to parlay that into a long-term deal. And I feel like his best chance at getting that long-term deal ever will be with the Saints just because they have the great coach. They have the good weapons. They have the good defense. And I would just love to see what he's got because you look at like some of his highlights and you're like, wow, he's throwing the ball 50 yards downfield. I mean, the last time a Saints fan has seen that is not a long time. It's been a very long time. It's like at least 2016 back with Brees. And I mean, that arm is just so good. And him and Taysom Hill, I think, are both intriguing. But just because I think we saw Taysom Hill, I saw what he is, I'd rather now see Winston. And I think that he ends up signing with the Saints. I think he goes into a QB battle, and I think he actually wins it.
See, this is what's interesting to me because I look at what we saw for the Saints last year and Sean Payton, and I think he has a complete love affair with Taysom Hill. And I'm not sure if I buy the theory entirely that they were hiding him. I'm curious to hear what you have to say in a second on this, but I read a theory, and you mentioned it yesterday when we were doing our pre-production meeting, that Sean Payton was hiding Jameis Winston this year, which I don't know if that sounds crazy to me. Like that sounds crazy to me, just given how much we've seen Sean Payton just be in love with Taysom Hill since he's been here. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a fan of Taysom Hill. I think he can play. I think he's an asset. But the fact that Taysom Hill was the starting quarterback when Brees went down, I think is impossible to ignore. And for that reason, I really hesitate to think that Jameis Winston will be the starting quarterback next year. And I think that's clearly the better option is to go with Jameis over Taysom Hill. That's where I'm at in this situation because I think he's a great fit for that offense. But, man, I can't get off the thought that Sean Payton is going to give Jameis Winston a starting job over Taysom Hill after what I've seen through his first, 2 to 3 years now.
I bet it was partly he was trying to hide him. I don't think it was fully. I mean, Sean Payton's I wouldn't put it past him. He's the guy that puts cheese in people's locker rooms to say, don't eat the cheese after they rank you really high in like the power rankings or anything. So he is definitely a guy that will do some crazy things. This would definitely be the craziest to not play the better quarterback if that's how he truly thought. He said, though, to Taysom, he promised him the job to at least go 4 games. And when Brees got hurt. And I think the big thing with Sean Payton, he wanted to see Taysom Hill in the starting job. He got to see Jameis Winston 70 starts, and he got to evaluate all that, the good, the bad, the ugly with Jameis Winston, but he wanted to see what Hill had. And I feel like also Hill knew the playbook better at that point. And I think Sean Payton wanted that evaluation process, and now he has that. And now you go into the next season, most likely without Drew Brees, who's most likely not going to come back. I mean, at this point, I think he'll retire after the Super Bowl, not official yet, but I don't know. I feel like Jameis has all that potential, and also Sean Payton's been gushing over Jameis Winston. He's saying he has huge interest, and he wants him in this room, and he wants to keep progressing with him and getting better. Like he's talking about him like he's on the roster already, and it's free agency.
If he's gushing over Jameis Winston like this, and he actually felt this way about him, why wouldn't he start last year? Because at the same time, listen, I get you saw Jameis Winston in Tampa Bay, and I get you have a better read on him, what he is as a quarterback as opposed to Taysom Hill. But you're talking about Drew Brees' last season. If you really wanted Drew Brees to go out with a win, like with a bang and win a Super Bowl, their best chance was to play Jameis Winston during that stretch and win as many games as possible. Because let's be honest, I thought last year their best chance to win games as a whole was putting in Jameis Winston over Drew Brees. And we've had that conversation before, and I'm not going to get fully into it. But I thought it was pretty clear last year that Jameis Winston was the best quarterback on that roster at that time. And when Brees went down, if you want to give Drew Brees one last ride, I completely understand that. Like, it's admirable, and like, it was the right thing to do, probably in all likelihood, for a guy who's given so much to that organization, so much to that city. Like, I can get behind that. But if you really mean that, then winning is priority number one. And he clearly thought in that spot, at least from my perspective, that Taysom Hill gave them a better chance to win over Jameis Winston. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, and listen, I don't know what direction this is going to go in, just because Sean Payton confuses the crap out of me sometimes with decisions like this. But I'm not going to question it, because the guy gets the job done, and whatever happens ends up happening. So we'll see what transpires. But man, from what I've seen, I'd be stunned if Taysom Hill isn't playing a massive role in that offense, and one of those roles being quarterback.
I think prepare to be stunned. That's all I'll say. Prepare to be stunned, because I think Sean Payton, I think he wanted to see, because I think in practice, the theory of Taysom Hill, like if you look at Taysom Hill, like maybe if he ever progressed into like I think a quarterback that can actually read zone defenses, doesn't fumble the ball like 3 times a game, and could actually throw on the run. Like, if he ever fixed those issues, I think he could definitely be a franchise quarterback. But at this point in his career, I see that probably being highly unlikely. But you didn't know these flaws. Like, he only fumbled once in the past 2 seasons, but only when he was put in the starting role. You saw the fumbling issue. You saw that he just can't read zone defenses. And also, he holds the ball on way too long. And he doesn't throw on the run great, which is, you would think Taysom Hill would throw on the run great, but he doesn't. So but you wouldn't have known those things. Like, in theory, the Taysom Hill.
I felt like it was pretty obvious that you did know those things, because it's pretty clear he wasn't a quarterback. Like,
I don't think it was obvious.
I thought it was pretty damn obvious. I think it was obvious to me, based on the fact that, like, when you brought him out of college, you drafted him not to be a quarterback. Like, they drafted him to be a all-purpose utility guy on the offensive end that can play pretty much every skill position.
Well,
it was listen, and I get he was a quarterback in college, but like, just watch the tape. Like, it wasn't that hard to figure out that he couldn't do these things, I think, in my opinion. And I could be wrong again, but like, did they really need 4 NFL games to figure that out when you got a guy in Jameis Winston who's clearly a better quarterback and clearly a better fit for that system in there? I thought it was an easy decision at the time to go to Winston, but like I said, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I like what Andrew said about how they were trying to give Taysom Hill a chance at being the quarterback to see what he does with it, because they did know what Winston would do, like, with an offense and how he ran one, and they were giving Taysom Hill just that NFL like league to let him see how he does, how he leads the team. So it might have just been a trial run, but it definitely, Sean Payton's giving mixed messages, because he's like, he has an allegiance to Taysom Hill, but at the same time, he's like, I love Jameis Winston, and I will be Jameis Winston. So there's definitely like an interesting thing, and it'll be interesting, I think, if Winston like wants to go back, like if he, I don't know, in free agency, he could have a choice of another place and another team that maybe it wouldn't be such a competition for him, like to be backup quarterback.
I would say the only team would be the Colts.
Yeah.
They have an offense, like, they have a good system around him. Like, if I were him, I'd stay far away from Chicago. Like, you're going to be a career backup if you do that.
That's a death sentence.
Yeah, like, I'd rather, like, Teddy Bridgewater did the same thing. He could have went to the Dolphins and take Fitzpatrick's role, basically, and he could have done that. He ended up staying with the Saints for a little less money, started those 5 games, and parlayed it into $60 million. And, I feel like Winston would do something similar. And also, he's not even sitting behind a Drew Brees. He would have a chance to beat out Taysom Hill, which I think in all likelihood, I think it's going to end up happening. I really do. You said you'd be shocked. I really don't. Sean Payton, I think he was even talking about, he's like, in practices, Jameis's arm was it was so big and it was showed off, and
Then
the defense was struggling against it. I was like, well, yeah, but I think the Taysom Hill experiment in Sean Payton's mind was like, he could throw from the pocket, he can run for 100 yards, he could bowl people over. And I think in theory, Taysom Hill in Sean Payton's mind was like, oh, he's going to be this star Lamar Jackson type player. But you had to see him in actual games to figure out his weaknesses.
But this was the problem. Like Sean Payton gets goosebumps every time he looks at Taysom Hill. Like that's the type of relationship that I think that he has with Taysom Hill, because I don't think there was any reason to think that, because he can't throw the ball. Yes, you can put him in situations where like on a trick play where he can throw it because he was a former quarterback. But I don't know. I just thought it was pretty obvious that Taysom Hill wasn't a quarterback going into this all. Yeah, I mean, they won some games with them, and the offense looked decent because, well, it wasn't Drew Brees, who was pretty miserable last year. But I don't know. If that team wanted to win games last year and wanted to go make a Super Bowl run, I thought it was pretty obvious their best opportunity to do that was with Jameis Winston, because of his ability to open up the field with those weapons and his ability to make plays in the pocket. But
yeah,
again, I understand why they didn't do it, but at the same time now, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous to me that he didn't play in that 4-game stretch, and that said a lot to me. That did.